Hey guys, it's Joey again from the Technical Account Management team. So when we last left off, we had taken a look at our network edge device and we had accessed it via SSH. So next what I'd like to do is head over to the Azure portal here, where you'll see our resource groups. I'm going to click the resource group that I'm going to be building this ExpressRoute inside of. And so we're going to look at the first steps here for this ExpressRoute circuit. For the purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to assume a couple things just to keep us dialed in on the ExpressRoute itself. The first thing being that we already have a virtual network created, and the second being that we have a virtual network gateway created. So with that established, the last piece of the puzzle here is just creating that ExpressRoute. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to head up on here to the top and click create. And in this search bar, I'm going to type in ExpressRoute. And if I type it in all one word like that, it should be the first result. So I'm going to go ahead and click create here. And you'll notice that the subscription and resource group have already defaulted. And in this case, they're both correct. So I'm going to leave those alone. So for the region here, I am going to look for North Central US because that corresponds to the metro, if you'll remember, where we created our network edge device. And I'm just going to give this a name. I'm going to follow the same format that we've been using so far. Community_ER for ExpressRoute. Let's head on to configuration here. So remember, we're going through a provider, in this case, Equinix. So I'm going to keep this as provider. We are also creating a new one. I'm going to look under this drop down for Equinix. And peering location, again, Chicago, that corresponds with the metro where we built our network edge device. For the bandwidth, because this is just a demonstration, I'm just going to go with the lowest option here. We shouldn't need more than that. And the SKU, I'm going to leave the same. The billing model, I'm going to leave the same. And this classic operations setting, I'm not going to touch that either. So with that out of the way, we can go to review and create. Awesome. Validation passed. I can go ahead and click create. So in just a second, this deployment will be over. Awesome. So we're back. Our ExpressRoute has finished cooking here. That took maybe 5 minutes, if that. I'm going to go ahead and head over to the resource itself. And you'll notice here, provider status, not provisioned. The next thing I'm going to want to do here is take a look at this service key. I'm going to copy this to my clipboard and head back over to the Fabric portal. I'm going to go to connections, create connection. And so if I scroll down here, I'm going to find Azure. I can also search for this up there. I'm going to look for Azure, select, and I'm going to select Azure ExpressRoute. So this is going to give a brief overview of what we're going to be doing here. Go on through. This is going to show a preview of the connections that we're actually building. So down here, from our origin point, I'm going to select virtual device. And I'm going to select a Mare, Chicago, virtual devices. And I'm going to find our community CSR here. So by default, within the portal, and this is just due to Azure's SLA, it's going to ask us to create a redundant connection. We can select single connection if we want to, but it's going to avoid that SLA if we do so. So what we're going to see up here is that both of these VCs are actually going to connect to the same network edge device. So not truly redundant, but for the purposes of this demonstration, we're just using the single CSR. Now, right here on the destination side, I'm going to paste in that service key, and this will populate below. Perfect. So this is just giving us a preview of what we're building and what we're paying for. I'm going to go ahead and click next. We're going to be asked to put in a little bit more information. I'm going to give both of these a name here. I'm just going to call this Community Azure Rye. And I'm going to call the secondary, just following the same format, Community Azure Sec. Now, under peering type, remember we're using private peering. I'm going to go ahead and select private. So when we look at this interface selection option here, remember those interfaces on our virtual device? We're creating 2 connections right now. And so if I keep this selected at automatically select the next available interface on my device, this ought to populate on interfaces 3 and 4. I'm going to go ahead and click next. And again, this is just a review of what we're building here. And I am going to select submit order. All right, so it's been about 5 minutes and I've refreshed the page. I'm back in the connections menu and I can click on either one of these, the primary or the secondary. You can see this yellow icon that's showing pending BGP for both sides, and that's what we should be seeing right now. So let's take a look in there. And again, pending BGP, we get to see both of our connections here. Now what I'm going to go and do is head back to the Azure portal. And if you'll notice, it now says provisioned under provider status. And the next thing I'm going to go and do is head to Azure Private under this peerings menu. So under this private peering section here, I'm going to be asked to provide the peer ASN, the Equinix ASN in this case, which is 65100. And it's going to ask me for 2/30 subnets here, one primary and one secondary. I am going to go with 172.16.1.0 for the primary and 172.16.2.0 for the secondary. And these need to have the CIDR notation added as well. Now for the VLAN ID, this is arbitrary in this case, but it will be the same for both the primary and secondary. And I'm going to go ahead and click save. Okay, so now that our private peering is configured here in the Azure portal and our provider status is provisioned, I am going to head back over to the Fabric portal where you'll see that the primary and secondary connections that we made are provisioned. What I want to do is I want to head over to the virtual device inventory and I want to look at our devices interfaces. So I'm going to go to our community CSR. And let's check this out. Perfect. So as you can see, our primary and secondary connections populated on interfaces 3 and 4 respectively. And so with that, in our next video, we are going to take a look at using SSH to get back into our device and configuring BGP within the command line interface.